Today on the Christian Nerds Unite podcast, I continue my conversation with Len Uhley, writer of the Nightcrawler episode of X-Men the Animated Series, and we talk all about what it means to him to be a freelance animation writer. And we'll get to all of that right after this. 2022 is flying by so fast, and I just reviewed my goals for the year. It's not too late to set some effective goals for 2022 for yourself. And the Goal Process 101 ebook helps you do just that. With a straightforward process and practical exercises, you'll be guided to set the right goals for you and set out a plan to achieve them. Get your copy of the Goal Process 101 ebook by going to goalprocess101.com. Use CNU2022 at checkout to save 10%. Now, back to the show. Len Uhley is a prolific animation writer and was nominated for a Writers Guild Award. Having written over 200 episodes of various animated shows like Darkwing Duck, Iron Man, Static Shock, Avengers, Justice League, Ben 10, VeggieTales, and so many more, this week we dive deeper into what it's like being an animation writer. Well, before we get to that, I do want us to read some scripture. Proverbs 3:1-4. My son, do not forget my teaching, but keep my commands in your heart, for they will prolong your life for many years and bring you peace and prosperity. Let love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your neck, write them on the tablet of your heart. Then you will win favor and a good name in the sight of God and man. And Luke 1:1-4. Many have undertaken to draw up an account of the things that have been fulfilled among us, just as they were handed down to us by those who from the first were eyewitnesses and servants of the word. With this in mind, since I myself have carefully investigated everything from the beginning, I too decided to write an orderly account for you, most excellent Theophilus, so that you may know the certainty of the things you have been taught. Len says he is very blessed to have had the opportunity to continue writing for so long and to have been able to tell stories that really matter to people along the way. Well, with that said, let's get right into the second half of our interview.
I'm a storyteller. I'm not an educator. I'm glad to have a chance to write things that matter to people. It really is. Listen, it's a privilege to be able to write for any medium. It's something I aspired to from the get-go. And I'm doing it. It's not where I expected to be. I wanted to be a sitcom writer. When I went to UCLA film school, I wanted to be a sitcom guy, and everybody else wanted to write the screenplay to change the world. They all ended up doing our drama and probably made more money. But the fact is, I got lucky, and I've been able to maintain a career longer than had I stayed a middling sitcom writer because, after age 40 and your hair turns a certain color, you're not considered funny anymore. But in animation, I've been able to continue going, and I've won some awards. You see one of them behind me and things like that. And I'm glad. I'm lucky. I'd like to keep it up for a few more years, but I'm very fortunate that I've been able to do this and entertain people of all ages, as they say.
Awesome. Well, let's go here because you've mentioned it. You've mentioned both shows a couple of times. How did you get involved in Ben 10 and Static Shock?
Okay. Well, I had worked with Alan Burnett, who was the showrunner on Static Shock, when we were both at Disney. And then he went off and started. Basically, Alan is the undersung hero of all things at Warner Brothers Animation. He ran all of the shows for many, many years on the script side of things.
So
Wonderful.
that explains the connection with Milestone.
Well, no, actually, no. That's
Oh,
Milestone
that's
Ian McDuffie.
okay.
Alan Burnett. He'd been a writer on Smurfs, and then he came to Disney at one point. Smurfs was
Okay.
Hanna-Barbera, and Alan's retired now, and we all miss him because he's absolutely the best at what he does. He's this calm, quiet center in any storm. People are running around with their hair on fire, and Alan will walk into the room. He'll resolve the story question in moments. Everybody will calm down. He's a lovely guy. Anyway, so Alan went from where I met him at Disney TV Animation. They went over to run Batman the Animated Series and Superman and Justice League and all those things. Anyway, so he was the guy that when I was, freelancing, having left a staff situation, he brought me on at first freelance and then staff and then freelance again on Static Shock. And I got to write 16 of those. And, again, I got a chance to do some really wonderful, popular episodes on that show. And since Static had been created for Milestone Comics by Dwayne McDuffie, who had come in to Warner Brothers Animation, and then became like a meteoric rise. He became one of the showrunners on Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. And then he left Warner Brothers and he went over to Cartoon Network to run a reboot of Ben 10, which had been about a young Ben Tennyson. And then he aged him up, and I got to write on 3 series of Ben 10. I worked on, I got to look it up again because I always get the names wrong. I worked on, oh golly, here we go. Sorry. Ultimate Alien and Alien Force, Ultimate Alien, and those 2 were run by Dwayne, and then he passed. And then his widow and his best friend from high school and college, Charlotte Fullerton and Matt Wayne, ran Ben 10 Omniverse. So I got a chance to write 24 of those shows. And particularly when I was working with Dwayne, we got a chance to do stuff that was fascinating. I did a flashback episode that got me a Writers Guild nomination that was just, kind of like our version of Terminator. It was really great fun to do. We just did all sorts of interesting things, funny stuff and dark stuff. I did one that was kind of like a noir bit towards the end. And it's just, again, because you have story editors, showrunners who are fearless and confident and have the trust of the people who are paying the bills, it gave folks like me who were, freelancers, an opportunity to do things that were beyond the everybody after the treasure episodes, the silly rompy bits. On the other hand, way back when at Disney, I did an episode of a series that I actually co-created, but that's another debate for another time, called Bonkers. And after we'd written the show and the episode had been produced, the executive in charge at the time said, "We have no business doing episodes like that." And it was a show about a sibling rivalry between 2 sisters. Okay, well, you see, okay, if that's what you think, I think Disney has done other things since that are a little more emotional, obviously. But at that time, that was his sort of approach to things. But to me, it was like, okay, I know that I can at least try to write stuff that is a little deeper. And so I want to be able to do that. And so after I left Disney, I was given that chance with Eric Lewald on X-Men and Alan Burnett on Static, Dwayne McDuffie, and even more recently on a wonderful show. I don't know if you've seen it, called Thunderbirds Are Go. It was a reboot of the puppet show from the 60s.
I'm familiar with it. I'm more familiar with the old one than I am with this new one. But I did notice the new one.
It was CG. It was absolutely brilliantly produced by a guy named Rob Hoagie, terrific story editor. In fact, I'm going to suggest to your viewers, if any of them have Apple Plus, they should see the show Rob is currently doing called Stillwater. It is the most extraordinary, touching, calming, beautiful, again, spectacular production series.
I saw some of the CG work on it, and it looks beautiful.
Absolutely gorgeous. And Rob has done several series where it's like, how does he get these wonderful productions? Because
you've gotten to write at least one episode, correct?
I've written 3 of Stillwater.
Okay.
There's 1 or 2 that need to be that will be on the air yet.
Okay. That I was going to say only one's listed on IMDb.
That's right,
so.
And the other 2 are coming in another season. And
gotcha.
But I probably shouldn't be talking about it, but I did sign an NDA. I'm in trouble now. But it is an absolutely beautiful show, and it is about mindfulness. And in this crazy busy world we all live in, and especially for the younger viewers who are seeing this, to dial it down and to think and pause and reflect. It's not religion per se, but it is something that I think is very nourishing for the soul of the children and the parents watching it. They've had Peabody and Emmy wins and nominations, and it's an absolutely glorious show. Really, highly recommended. On the other hand, I've also written for Dork Hunters from Outer Space, so don't take my word for anything. I'm not kidding.
That is a brilliant title.
Yeah, it wasn't a brilliant show, but work is good. So,
well, I will say I live in the world of Star Wars, talking about Star Wars and Star Trek and Marvel and DC, and and I know you've done a lot of Marvel and DC stuff.
Yeah.
Did you grow up as a Marvel fan or a DC fan?
Yeah, I was a comic book collector for mostly DC.
Okay.
So it was, Batman, Superman, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, Justice League, all of those things. That's what I collected when I was a kid. I stopped reading comic books a long time ago, unfortunately, but that was the basis. And so I ended up writing more Marvel stuff than DC stuff, though I've done some. I did 1 Justice League. I did 1 The Batman, one of the later versions.
Right.
But the closest I've come was working on Static Shock because, and this is a fun bit of experience, one of the episodes I wrote for Static Shock was called The Big Leagues. Look it up. And it was a crossover episode, the first crossover episode with Batman and Robin and the Joker. So I got to write dialogue for them, and for the guys who do those voices, including Mark Hamill. So that was cool.
Nice.
So talk about crossing the streams. So that was very, very much fun. And again, thanks to Alan Burnett, I got that kind of an opportunity to work on that show. It was really one of my favorite experiences working at Warner Brothers on Static.
When you do stuff like this, you've done a lot of one-offs, like you said. When you're working freelance and stuff like that, are you doing a lot of research into who the characters are beforehand? Is that stuff that's just kind of, here's a bunch of stuff, go read it? Or is it more of you've already kind of been following this show, and at least you know something about it?
It depends on the show.
Like that work?
I mean, if you're a freelancer, like I've been most of my career, you're in a situation where if the show has been on the air, you watch as much of it as you can. And that's easier now with all the streamers repeating everything.
Oh, yeah.
If you are getting in on the ground floor of a series, you might read a series Bible. You might see the first episode's script. There might not be a produced pilot because of the lead time in animation. So you're doing as much research as you can. And then your showrunner and you will, sometimes there's what's called a writer's summit where everybody gets together and sort of talks out episodes and things like that. Or sometimes the showrunner has ideas that he would or she would like to have produced. And so you get, I'd like to do that one, or he'd like you to do that one, or whatever. Sometimes you come in and pitch ideas. series is handled differently. But at the end of the day, you're sitting down with the boss and you're breaking the story. You're figuring out what the story beats are each scene. And then you go off after you've worked it out on a whiteboard or notes or whatever. And then you go and you write up a treatment or you write up a story outline, and that gets bounced and revised. And then you get notes from all the powers that be. And then you get to write the teleplay, and then you write the teleplay again, and maybe a third time, and then they take it and they do their magic to it, and then it goes through this ridiculously complicated process of storyboards are drawn and voice tracks are recorded and everything's shipped overseas to do the animation, and it comes back many months later, and the freelancer's completely out of the loop for any of this. So it's sort of like, oh, is my episode in this season? Why, yes, it is. Oh, good, I get to watch it. And so, it's a surprise to everybody. Fortunately, I've been able to work for a lot of really top-notch people. And so the product generally comes back really good. Like I mentioned, the stuff I've done for Rob and the stuff I've done on Static and Ben 10, really top-notch productions. I also, like I said, I got a chance to do some home videos a few years ago for Universal, and those were pretty well produced. I enjoyed those. I enjoyed the process of doing those, and I enjoyed the final product. There's so many. I've done a lot. I can't keep track of them all, but I've been very lucky to have some things that people remember fondly, and I have a shelf full of the DVDs to prove it. DVDs, for the younger people, that's kind of like streaming, but it's a physical thing. And above that shelf, there's VHS tapes, and you'll have to ask your grandparents about that. Anyway, I digress.
So tell me this. You've done a lot of 30-minute shows.
Yeah.
Have you done very many features? Is there a major difference between writing, say, I was starting to get involved with filmmaking before, and the people, my audience knows about my wife's illness, and I had to step away from a lot of things when she got ill, and I was starting to really get into the filmmaking industry here in Oklahoma, and I made a couple of short films myself, directed a couple of short films. I'm not much of a writer personally, so I would have writers on that would help write the scripts, and then I'd be like, hey, let's fix this, let's change that to kind of mold it into what I really wanted the story to say. But they really did all the bulk of the writing. Mm-hmm. But is there a big difference between writing, say, a 30-minute show versus a feature length, something that's like 90 minutes or 2 hours long? And I mean, and now movies are like 3 hours long, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, yes, the process is the same. The structure of the episode or TV series obviously are very different, but basically, I mean, it's all beginning, middle, and end finally, but it's really compressed. If you're writing a script, when I started at Disney TV Animation, our scripts were like 40-some pages long because, like I say, you were really directing on the page, shot for shot. These days, you wouldn't do that at all. The average half-hour episode, which is really only 20-some minutes, is about 25 pages, maybe. So much more succinct, much more, this is, again, getting into the weeds, but much more master scene. You don't go into copious detail. You're not culling out shots, things like that, because you're leaving it to the director and the board artists to do that. So, and certainly that's the case if you were writing live action. But in terms of writing, like the home videos that I mentioned, which were feature-length home videos for Universal, I did write one VeggieTales that got produced. I ended up with a co-writing credit on Noah's Ark. That was the last home video that was released on DVD. I also wrote another one, which I thought was great fun, called The Road to Bethlehem, which was basically, Bob and Larry as Hope and Crosby.
That would be awesome.
It was great fun. I'm very proud of it. It'll never see the light of day because they've done. I've actually written a couple of episodes for a series called The VeggieTales Show, which is a new iteration of that as compared to the stuff that you saw on home video. They're doing this, and this is for Trinity Broadcasting, and it's on some other streamer, and I can't remember the name of it. And so, I did a couple of episodes of that, League of Incredible Vegetable stuff, so I could do the superhero bits with, with those characters. And that's a lovely cast of characters. The VeggieTales characters, the Muppet characters, I've never worked for them, unfortunately. All the Warner Brothers, Bugs and Daffy, I got to write for them kinda on a show called Lunatics Unleashed, which was sort of a younger version, futuristic version of that. And obviously all of the superhero characters for Marvel and for DC. These are all wonderful, giant canvases upon which one can write one's little script. I'm mixing metaphors there, sorry. But, it really is kind of like you get a chance to work with any of these characters and you're saying, what fun. As to your point, however, writing a screenplay is, when you're writing an episode of a series that's ongoing, you kind of know who the characters are because of what others have done with those characters. Now you have to bring your own take on it to the work, but you also have to sort of fit within the confines. Don't write an episode of, let's say if there was a Terminator series, don't make it a musical comedy. Okay? Don't be smart. Follow the rules of that world to the best of your ability. And sometimes, listen, most of the time I'm pretty much on target. I'm sure been times, and you could probably talk to people who would say that, oh no, I kind of missed that target by a country mile. This happens, but I've written 230 some, 260 some episodes. That you can't hit the bullseye 100% of the time. So shame on me. But when you're writing for those shows, you've got a template. When you're writing an original screenplay, with American Tail, there were 2 features with those same characters. So I knew how to use those characters in the stories I told. When I'm writing an original screenplay, I have actually an original screenplay that I've just started disseminating. It's a finalist in a screenplay competition.
Yes, I read about that.
Stage 32 family-friendly screenplay contest. So we'll find out who actually wins the contest February 11th. So I've already dated this broadcast. Sorry. Anyway, so that is by many orders of magnitude more difficult because you're creating that world and you're creating those characters and you have to really dig deep unless you're, unless you really want something that's just a lot of things going boom. But since I was writing a comedy drama, it's kind of a low budget comedy drama about family, and yes, there's a touch of faith in it. If it ever sees the light of day, I'll be thrilled, but who knows? That is people, unfortunately, the internet has become everybody's a critic. Everybody knows better than the people making the movies, the TV shows. You know what? It's an impossible thing to get anything made. And if you're fortunate enough to get anything made, good for you. I say give more credit where it's due, because everybody can snipe and quip about, well, I didn't like that episode, or, oh, that Mandalorian was a disappointment, or Boba Fett. Oh, Boba Fett is getting all the. Hey, come on! Have you?
I haven't done my review yet of that one.
I mean, honest to goodness. Okay, you don't like it? That's too bad. They made something that's extraordinary. Just the production value.
Yes, absolutely.
So don't be a wise guy. I want to say to all these people, hey, well, that's not how I would have done it. Well, fine. Do better. This is a ridiculous job to have. I'm really lucky. And all my contemporaries, we're really lucky to be able to do this. At the same time, it does require a particular set of skills, to quote another movie franchise entirely. And you don't get to that just by saying, here's how I do it. There's a tremendous amount of talent, yes, but also craft and determination. It's not for the faint of heart. It's a business of rejection. So anybody that gets a film made, even if it's a film you don't care for, okay, that's nice. Somebody else obviously liked it well enough to spend millions of dollars to make it. There
Yes.
must be a reason. Whatever that is, business or creative, there's a reason that thing got shot. Isn't that extraordinary? So, sorry, I'll get off my soapbox now.
That's quite all right. That is quite all right. I'm right there with you. And I'm the first to say I am not a writer. I have tried. I have given up. I am a director. I will probably never be a writer, but that's okay.
Well,
Um,
I'm not much of a director, I will admit. My directing skills stopped in high school when I was doing those musicals and saying, "Guys, come on!" That's not a directorial approach that gets work. But then that's okay because I am a writer. That's basically what I do, and I love doing it, and it's frustrating and it's challenging, and it's the only skill set I have basically. Other than that, I have to go back to work in the drugstore like I did in high school, which I don't want to do. Though the blue jacket was very attractive at the time, but
nice.
let's not go there. But I'm very writing is hard work.
Mm,
As I say to young writers, if you have aspiring writers in your audience, writing professionally is, if I can talk you out of it, you shouldn't do it. If I can talk you out of it, you might have a shot at it.
mm,
If you want to have homework 24/7 for the rest of your life, this is the job for you. If you don't want to collaborate with anyone, anything like in the creative mediums like film or television, that's not the business. You should be a sculptor because it's just you and the marble. But if you want to be in this kind of medium, you have to collaborate. You have to be willing to
mm.
compromise. Yeah, you can stand for what's important to you, but you also have to know that other people have. There are very few people who could say my way or the highway in production of television and film. There are giant 800-pound gorillas who can do whatever they please. Most of
Mm.
us cannot. Most of us are working slobs. And I'm one of those working slobs. I got this award not because it's a Writers Guild Award, and it's a kind of a lifetime achievement-y kind of thing. And I'm with a lot of people who also won that award, who have done, created television series and been real titans of the animation business. The Matt Groenings and Sam Simons and Seth MacFarlane's of the world. And if you did a bell curve on, it was Sam Simon who co-created The Simpsons, and then me, and then Seth MacFarlane. That was the income disparity there is breathtaking. I'm a rounding error in their lunch money, but I'm just a guy who got to work in a strange business. I'm very fortunate, but I didn't change the course of human history. I've entertained people, and when you talk about Nightcrawler and other episodes I've done to people, like that's a gift. I'm so lucky that I got a chance to do that. I'd like to do more of that sort of thing, but who's to say? I guess that depends on how this year goes, right? We've all had our challenges in the last couple of years with the pandemic and all that sort of thing. So the business has changed tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
Writers are working from home. They're not working in writers' rooms, much at all. Maybe that'll change again, probably will. But, a lot of people figured out that work from home is a doable thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, for those of us who are freelance, we're used to it. For those who are used to staffing, it's been a kind of a gear shift. So, who knows? Throw the deck of cards up in the air. Who knows how it's all going to land at the end of it?
I surely don't. Well,
Yeah.
Len, I want to honor your time. It has been great having you on the show.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely a blast. Thanks for, putting out some great content over the years. And I will say Nightcrawler is by far one of my absolute favorite episodes of X-Men animated series.
That's very kind of you. I'm I agree. I like it. And it's a half-hour cartoon. Could we have gone deeper? Could we have had more content, more human drama in it? Sure, but we're talking about a 22-minute episode. So I'm very lucky that people think fondly of it, and I don't know what to say except thank you to all of the people that are seeing this for watching shows like that and remembering them fondly.
Well, thank you for helping
currently
make
available
it happen.
on Disney Plus, by the way. But anyway, so thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it, and for your interest. And I'll look forward to watching this when you've got it all cut together.
Absolutely. Thanks again.
All right. You take care.
Len was a joy to have on the show, and I love how excited he is about his craft and about telling stories that will endure. If you missed last week's episode, go check it out. Len talks about how the Nightcrawler episode that talks so much about faith came about. It's definitely worth a listen. And if you want to watch that episode of the X-Men the Animated Series, it is streaming now on Disney Plus. It's Season 4, Episode 1 of X-Men the Animated Series. And if you want to keep up with Len, with what he's currently up to, then check him out on Twitter at Len Uhley. That's Lenuhley. And I'll put a link to his Twitter down in the show notes. Well, that's all I have for us today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, click all those buttons, whatever they are down there, so you can keep up with our new content as it comes available. And you can find us, all of our social links and our YouTube channel and our online store at ChristianNerdsUnite.com. And while you're there, click on the support tab. We would love to have you as a Patreon. Before you go, I do want to leave you with this blessing from Numbers chapter 6. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. We'll see you next week. Blessings.